And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Smokin Tabacco Show. On a different time, it is Saturday. And there's a reason for that. We are sitting down with a very special guest. I am joined once again by my friend, Mr. Jonathan Carney. And today, we want to welcome to the Smokin Tabacco Show, Mr. José Blanco. He is, what can we not say about him? He is an industry pioneer, industrialist, lots of experience. He's got a lot of knowledge. And just a true legend. Jose, welcome to the show.
Hey, Matthew, it's great to be on the show. It's 10 o'clock here, but, you know, it's for you that are, I'm going to say it here on the air that I've heard so many good things. I'm happy to be on the show. Now, being on with Carney, well, that's a different issue because he's offered me all these steaks all these years. So tonight he says he's going to get me a steak, but we're going to leave it at that.
So I'll tell you likewise, my friend. When we started this show together in like March or April, it was a luxury to have me on the show. Now it's just a liability.
I will say though, we've had a lot of people on the show, and not one person has complained or told me, "Yeah, you got to tell that Carney guy he can't be on the show with me because, you know, I just don't like him or whatever." Everyone's always been like, "Yeah, no, I want Carney on the show." We even had Nick Perdomo, and I said, "Nick, just want to let you know, John Carney from LFD's on the show," and he was like, "No, I want him on the show. This is going to be good. I like John." I'm like, "Okay." So it hasn't been an issue yet.
No. So we got today I'm dressed in Alabama gear because it just started. Now we've got the SEC championship on at 4:00 Eastern Standard Time in the U.S. So they're playing University of Florida. So I'm dressed up in my Bama gear today. I'm here in sunny Miami. So I got my sunglasses on. But, yeah, we're excited about this. This has been great. We've been looking forward to having you on since Matthew had contacted you. So this is going to be a really good show and a special day here on Saturday. And I know it's later over where you're at, and we'll get into that. But thank you for coming on, and thank you for the friendship over the years as well.
No, thanks, guys. So let's make it happen, Matthew.
So, Jose, you have, as I said, you've been around a long time. You've been in industry for many years. You know, so many titles you've had. You've been at the top of La Aurora, Joya de Nicaragua, and now currently you're the International Director of Sales in the Eastern Hemisphere for Arturo Fuente. Another big name, a family that's been in the business a very long time. But one of the biggest things that I know about you is that you have a good reputation for your skills with blending and all things that kind of come out of blending, fermentation. I know we've talked a little bit more about just the importance of the seed in the soil when it comes to growing tobacco, because at the end of the day, is awesome and as important as the cigars are, and the construction and how they're rolled is important. The way that tobacco is grown plays such a key role in making a fantastic cigar.
It's true. And, you know, something, Matthew, that when I'm doing the seminars, which I've done around 1,500, and those were a lot. I mean, with in shops, even at the when it was RTDA one year, we did it for 200 something people. One of the things that people ask the most is about fermentation. But at the end of the day, even though it's important, we have to go back. Let's say that the leaves, you pick them too mature or too young, right away, the process is screwed. But let's say you do pick the leaves at the time, then you bring them into the curing barn. But let's say that that year, when the leaves are in the curing barn, there is a lot of rain and you have a lot of humidity. You have to bring in heat, because if not, the leaves are going to get rotten. But let's say that you hardly have any humidity, then you have to bring in buckets of water, pans of water to put them under that to get moisture, because if not, they will crumble like a cracker. So let's say the leaves are picked correct and you did the curing correct. But then you got to go to fermentation. People think that all tobaccos are fermented at the same temperature, the same length, and at the same heat. So to like Cameroon and Connecticut, it's just a little bit that you're going to do to that. But you take a Connecticut broadleaf and you're going to bring that tobacco up to 120, 130 degrees. That is not only that. How many months do you have to go through that? It could be 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, could be even a year, because it's going to depend how the tobacco was that year in Connecticut, which to me, when it comes to Maduro, if I would have to pick a leaf, it's going to be Connecticut broadleaf. Now, let's say you did the fermentation correct, but then you got to do the aging. And at Fuente and many other companies, we age our tobacco. Our regular production is 5, 6 years old, Opus 8, 10. Those special cigars that Carlito does, and most of them, to be honest, are not even to sell them commercially. It's to raise money for the foundation. Some of those tobaccos are 12 and 15 years old. Because at the end of the day, for Carlito, it's first his family, then the company, and then the foundation. But going back to seeds, the soil is very, very important. Probably the most important thing. But again, you have to take in consideration the microclimate. But also you got to take in consideration the man. Because a person could have the soil, the seed, the microclimate, but if he doesn't know what he's doing, you're lost. And that has happened. Let me put it to you this way. A lot of people don't understand that you could have, let's say, I'm going to give Dominican Republic, and I'm going to mention it because Carney knows that farm very well, La Canela, where him and Hochi grow a lot of good Piloto Cubano. But that same Piloto Cubano, if you grow it in Gurabo or Jacagua or in Potrero, it's not going to be the same. But if you take, let's say, in Nicaragua, you take Habano, just take Habano, grown in Condega, Jalapa, Estelí, or in Ometepe, they're going to be similar, but there's going to be different characteristics. Probably from Jalapa, you're going to get more sweetness to it. And then from Estelí, you're going to get more earth and more spice towards. So you really have to evaluate the importance of the soil, but you have to take in consideration the curing, the fermentation, the aging, and the blending. And I'll go further with that. A lot of people, and I'm pretty sure that Carney's had this question when they've had people visiting, they go into the fields and ask us, where are the Maduro leaves? And no, it's the truth. I mean, we laugh, but it's the truth. But then what people don't understand, what does Maduro mean? Maduro means ripe. So why do we do the fermentation process? Basically, it's to uniform the colors of the wrappers. And it's done in a natural process, which is only heat and water. But at the same time, and I want to go back again to the growing, you have a year that, let's say, it rained a lot. The leaves are going to be very, very big. They're going to be very thin leaves, thin veins, and very light colors and hardly any oils. The fermentation process on that is going to be at a very low temperature, and it's going to be very short. But let's say you had a season where it hardly rained. You're going to have very thick leaves, very thick veins, a lot of oils, and dark colors on it. The fermentation process on that is going to be much longer and at higher temperatures, because you have to get all those notes out of it and those ammonia. So that's more or less that part.
So, I've had a lot of conversations, with obviously a lot of different people in the industry. I've heard a lot of different strategies. And I feel like, I guess everyone has their own thing, their own beliefs, their own techniques that they use, so to speak. I know there's one manufacturer who, when he ages his tobaccos in his humidor, he raises his humidity up really high and then brings it down to almost make the cigars expand, contrast, and really breathe and push out impurities, and then bring back in the moisture. You've heard people just the way they grow their tobacco, the way they age the tobacco itself, the way they age the cigars post roll. I guess there's so many different ways out there, but in my mind, someone like you've had the seminars, you've talked about this time and time again. and you're just such a wealth of knowledge. When it comes to the tobacco itself, it just seems as though, from what you've just explained to us and the viewers watching at home, you got to get it right from the beginning. If you're on the farm, you have the plants, nothing else matters. If those plants, as much as you have to watch them as they grow, but if you don't pick those just right, like as you said before, it's all done. It's all done. You got to pick them just right. And then from there, you still have a job of step by step by step, all the way down to the final product. I know I've had conversations with another manufacturer who spends a lot of money and time and focus just on the seeds, even before they go into the ground. And he claims that they're just probably the most important part is just having the right seeds and taking care of those seeds, because sometimes, you hold on to seeds and you store them before you even plant them and grow the tobacco. How important is it to know the seeds and take care of those seeds before they're actually planted on the farm?
Matthew, to be honest, I'm going to go back a little. Okay, you have the perfect seeds. Could be Habano, Criollo 98, Corojo 99, Original Corojo, whatever it is. So you got the perfect seeds. But what happened if where you're going to plant those seeds, the pH, the magnesium, and the nitrates of the soil is not correct? How about if the microclimate is not correct? How about if the people, the agronomists that you have on the field don't know shit? So seeds are important, but if you don't follow the rest of it, it's important, but you need all the rest of that. The team that's going to pick the leaves, cure the leaves, do the fermentation, the whole thing.
So let me ask you another question.
I would venture to say, Jose, like in the process, the end product and the beginning product, so the seed and the cigar are actually the least important parts of the entire process, right?
Well, in a certain way it is, because, at the end of the day, you can have the best rollers in the cigar, but if that tobacco is not aged, if it's young, as soon as you light that cigar up, you're going to get a bitter taste to it, sour taste to it. You're not going to pick up the sweetness, the nice subtles of spice, the cocoa notes and things like that. So that tells you that during the process, or the curing or the fermentation or the aging or even the blending was not done correct. John, and you've been around for a while, and Lito does a phenomenal job there. But a lot of people just don't understand how many steps you have to take and how important everything is. When I ask in a seminar to people, how many hands directly or indirectly touch a cigar before it winds up on your shelves? How many people you think have touched a cigar? People say, well, 10 people, maybe 20 people, maybe 30 people. Some people say 100. When we tell them it's between 230 to 240, depending on the factory, they go like, wow, I didn't know it.
That's an insane number too. I mean, that's a lot of people to be involved in the entire process, from beginning to end. That's a pretty impressive number too, because I wouldn't have guessed that either. I probably would have guessed like maybe 40, 50 people. But a few hundred people, that's impressive. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, when you think about it, and I guess you just don't realize how much involvement there really is. And especially in the factory and the farms, of everyone just going through all that tobacco as it goes from phase to phase to phase. And a question I did have for you is something that I've had come up in conversations when it comes to growing and the farms themselves, especially since you bring up the soil. Now, is it true that there are some farms or factories or manufacturers or whoever, or farmers who just grow tobacco that so they'll grow a crop for one season, they'll harvest that crop, and then in the next season they'll grow something other than tobacco there to renourish. Yeah, sorry, I'm looking for the word there. To renourish that soil before planting tobacco there again. Is this a common practice? Is this a important practice in your opinion?
Look, it's important. A lot of people do it. I know that in our case, we rotate the land a lot. There's other places, other companies that because you got to look at companies that have their own farms, and then you have to look at companies that just grow tobacco for different companies too. We know the Perez, David Perez, the Olivas, Ernesto Plasencia, Eduardo Fernandez, which in that case of the last two, they grow tobacco and also they make cigars. It's a practice that's used by a lot of people, and some people just don't do it. It's something I would say that a lot of people just see it as a financial point to do it or not to do it. I do believe that when you rotate the land, it does come out better than tobacco.
John, I guess since you're on here, I can ask you, LFD, obviously you guys grow your own tobacco as well. Is this a practice that you guys practice at La Flor Dominicana?
Yeah, what Jose said. I mean, the companies that are growing tobacco for use in essentially just their products, the Fuente branded products or the Fuente made products, you're really you're not at the mercy of other companies that you're making for.
Right.
So they have a set group of people that they make cigars for, themselves and the other brands and whatnot. So you kind of know and expect what you're having. When you're a tobacco grower, you're making your money off of selling the tobacco. So you're going to grow more often, more frequently. You don't have as much time to focus on that. So it's something that my experience in the industry has been done heavily. But part of it was what Jose said is when you're growing for the purpose of just making cigars, for yourselves in your own factory, you're naturally going to do more of that just because it inherently enhances the quality of the product. So, tobacco growers that are just growing for tobacco, it's a little bit different. The control's different, the focus is different, and if they have a bad season in the tobacco growing, if you're just a tobacco grower not manufacturing your own cigars, you're kind of in a really tough spot. So you've got to maybe extend the growing season a little, grow more, cut some corners, different things like that. So you really see less of that when you're entirely vertically integrated.
So I think we kind of skipped over a little part that we normally do. We talk about what we're smoking now. Jose, I know you're not smoking a cigar right now. You're indoors, and John and myself are. So I'm smoking a Don Carlos No. 2 from Arturo Fuente. Very, very delicious cigar. Don Carlos is one of my favorite lines. John, what are you smoking over there?
I'm smoking a Toro-sized Opus X that I picked up like 15 years ago in Orlando. I have my humidor behind me. I also have my El Papo del Humo up here as well. He's up in the background behind me. But I don't know what this is. I know it's an Opus X. I know I bought it 15 years ago at Corona Cigars in Orlando. And it's in my humidor of cigars I have only one of. So once I'm done with this, it'll never exist ever again. Funny thing is, I lit this up and I'm like, man, it's got this weird sweetness to it. I didn't realize I was drinking chocolate peppermint tea. I'm like, man, it tastes like chocolate. So I had like this taste. I'm like, it's so weird. I didn't realize I'd taken a drink of tea yet.
It's. Let me tell you something. You're smoking, Matthew, probably one of my all-time favorite cigars, the Don Carlos. Even though the Don Carlos Personal Reserve, I think it's the best cigar in the world ever made with a Cameroon wrapper. And everybody knows that I've always been a huge fan of Cameroon. In seminars all the time, people ask you, like they ask any of us in the business, what's your favorite wrapper? So for the last 25 years, I've been saying it's Cameroon, but Cameroon grown in Africa by the Merafev family. Because, a lot of people allege it's Cameroon. No, it's a Sumatra seed grown in Honduras or Nicaragua or Ecuador. And the difference between it's true Cameroon, you're going to pick up that sweetness and that spice. And let's say Sumatra grown in Ecuador, it's going to be spicy, it's going to be earthy, but it's not going to have that sweetness. When you put a Don Carlos or an 858 or a Hemingway in your mouth, you're going to pick up that sweetness right off the bat. To me, it's unique. It is exotic. Cameroon has notes and aroma that no other wrapper, in my opinion, has. Cameroon is so noble that I remember Carlito told me once that Don Carlos said to him, and Don Carlos, they both love Cameroon. The Cameroon was such a great, noble tobacco that you could take like, not shitty, but average tobacco and put that wrapper on it and could turn it into a good, decent cigar that would sell. That's the greatness. And the other thing about Cameroon, we all know it. It's the most expensive wrapper in the world. It's 50, 60, grade A. It's $70 a pound, but it's very unique. This is my my personal opinion. There might be people who like Cameroon, others that don't like it, but I'm a big fan of Cameroon.
I think Cameroon's always been my favorite tobacco as well. I think Cameroon and Corojo are my two favorites, but Cameroon's always the one for me that's most straightforward in terms of flavor profile. Like you can easily identify Cameroon. Anytime I light it up, it's boom, Cameroon. You can tell it's authentic too, because it has that creaminess, that nuttiness. It's really smooth on the palate. The mouthfeel on it's great. Cameroon is just a special tobacco, in my opinion, as well. And I think Corojo does a lot of things in a different way, but Cameroon is just a very distinctive flavor profile.
Yeah, and you said a key word, that nuttiness and that sweetness, that sweetness that Cameroon has. It's very unique.
Yeah, this cigar is definitely well balanced. A great amount of flavor. It's rich. It's good. I think I've actually had this. I found this. I have a lot of Fuente products. I'll just throw it right out there. I smoke a lot of Fuente, and I run into this situation where I buy and buy and buy, and I have all these things that I like, and I buy a lot of boxes, and I just forget what I have. And I was going through today, and obviously I wanted to smoke a Fuente, and I love Fuente too. And I found this, and I didn't even know I had a number 2, and I think I've had it actually for a little while. So it's been sitting in there for a little while, but it's so good. It's delicious, and I'm glad I went with this. And you're right about the Cameroon. I've always enjoyed Cameroon myself, and I know that Arturo Fuente uses a lot of Cameroon. I know that I've seen a few other cigars. One in particular that came out recently that was a Cameroon cigar, but it was not a real Cameroon cigar. And I remember tasting it, and it was a good cigar, but it just wasn't the same. You know what I mean? You could tell there was a lot of differences in that wrapper, and there was a lot of differences in the flavor. And I've always said I've always liked the Fuente Cameroon the best.
I'm not going to refer to that brand because they're friends of mine. I think you can't tell people what to do. But the thing is that the Josh and Jeremiah since last year started to pound. If it's not Marifel, it's not Cameroon. And when I got on board since March, we've been pounding it. Look, the way I see it is, don't call something that is not what it is.
Right.
And, people could keep saying it. We're not going to fight over it. We're just going to, make our point. We use true Cameroon. It's like I tell people tomorrow, Matthew, you and John could go to Cameroon, get 3 acres of tobacco. And I'm going to be the first one that says this cigar from the Mickey Mouse Cigars is made with Cameroon wrapper grown by John and Matthew in Cameroon. But if you come out and grow it somewhere else, I'm not going to say it's Cameroon because it's a Sumatra seed. But, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And when people ask about Cameroon, they're like, how can you tell if it's authentic or not? If you have to ask, it's not authentic. You will taste it. It is noticeable when it's not from Cameroon and it's not from the Marifol's farm. I mean, it's an obvious flavor difference. And people are like, oh, why is it different? You'll know it. It does. You can put them side by side and then you'll never have to guess ever again.
If I'm not mistaken, the cigars that are available at Casa Fuente in Las Vegas, the house blends, those all use Cameroon wrapper as well. Am I correct?
Look, to be honest, I think so. But I think that one of my guests tonight could probably clarify that. If he's on the chat, he could help out an old man. Maybe
I think I know who you're referring to, and he is in here.
So hold up, Matthew. You're asking national questions to the international director of sales. Let's please keep these on international matters.
Well, hey, I thought it was all just fair game here. Just
of course it is. Look, to be honest, I think it is, but I've smoked Casa Fuente, but I haven't in a long time. Maybe my boss, when he sees me in January, I hope so. Maybe he'll give me one or maybe half smoke one. Who knows?
So what strain of plant is Cameroon tobacco that's grown in Cameroon? Are there different strains grown, or is it all one kind?
Well, we're not going to get into a lot of details on that. I know it's throughout the years, the Marifels in their labs, they have been, working on the seeds genetically, not genetically, you could say, but trying to get more yield. Because remember, the biggest problem Cameroon has is that sometimes you get they pick 100 pounds, and when they're sorting it, you're probably going to get for wrapper maybe 4 or 5%. Then you're going to get maybe 8 or 10% more of for binder. But after that, the rest is just filler that they're just going to have to get rid of it one way or the other. Because you got to remember, where Cameroon has grown, it's in the rain. It's the second most dense rainforest in the world. There's no electricity. There's no water. There's no hospital. There's no security. The Marifels have to provide something. They have 25,000 people between growing and sorting the tobaccos and things like that. It's in no man's land. It's on my bucket list, but it's going to be for 2022. And I'm only going to go if Carlito goes with me, because
yeah.
I'm not going to get kidnapped. And if we get kidnapped, Carlito has more money than me, so the family will pay the ransom.
Yeah. It's in the bucket list, but it's way at the bottom of the bucket, right?
No, it's up there. Don't worry, it's up
there. So we've talked a little bit about Cameroon. Talked a little bit about just the beginning of the growing process, a little bit into the fermentation process. But there is one area that I really am excited to get into, and that is the actual blending of cigars. Now, I know that we've talked a bit about this. I know that you hold the seminars. You've blended a lot of cigars over the years. I guess the first question that comes to mind is, growing aside, when it comes to the actual blending, and you're going through and you're sampling tobaccos and you're trying to put something together and you're trying to get that right package of flavor and complexity together. And I know you're a guy who likes a cigar with a lot of complexity. What is the most important part when you're in that process of figuring that out? What is the one thing that it means the most to you when blending a cigar?
Let me tell you something, Matthew and John. Everything is important. Let's start off a little. People, unfortunately, tend to confuse flavor with strength. You could have a mild cigar that's full flavor, and you could have a cigar that's just strength. So when you're working on a blend, the first thing you want to do is you don't want to copy anything that anybody's doing. Because why would you try to say, like people say, well, I'm blending a cigar that's going to be like a Fuente, it's going to be like a Padron, it's going to be like the Flor. And I go like, I think you're mistaken. And they say, why? Because those cigars already are successful. So you have to be very genuine. You have to come up with your own concept. So after you have that idea, then you have to go to where really the blending part comes in. So when you're blending a cigar, and I've said this many times, so it's not that I'm giving away any secrets. First of all, you look at all your inventory. You say, I have so many pounds of this wrapper, so many pounds of this, of these binders, and then you start to work. Then you start making what is called grado puro. That means a cigar that's filler, binder, and wrapper. It's all the same filler. Then you start smoking it. You look at the years, and you start making notes. And then you smoke Corojo, you smoke Criollo 98, you smoke Habano, so whatever it is. And then you start making your notes. Then you make 3 or 4 blends, or 5, whatever it is. You're working on percentages of the ligeros, the visos, the secos, the different. It's like a cook, what Carney does, and I heard he does it pretty well. So you're mixing pepper and garlic and different things. Like Carlito says, the chef in the kitchen. But what is the first thing that you are looking for when, let's say you made your 5 or 6 blends or whatever? What's the first thing you're looking for? You're looking for flavor. So let's say you accomplish the flavor. Then you're looking for strength. Then you're looking for aroma. Those 3 things are probably not the easiest, but not so hard to get as the following 3. So let's say you got the flavor, the strength, and the aroma correct. Then comes the part, one of my favorite, the complexity. It doesn't matter how good a cigar is. If from start to finish, it's the same flavor, the same strength, the same notes, it becomes a good, boring cigar. So let's say you got the flavor, the strength, the aroma, the complexity done. Then comes balance. That, the same as the complexity, is very, very hard. Because you don't want a cigar you want a cigar to go more or less like this, but you don't want it to have a high note of a pepper or just a note. You want to have total stimulation in your mouth and it's hitting you all over. And then the last part is what we call the finish. Unfortunately, people see a review that says the cigar was medium to full, bada bing, bada bang, and it had a long finish. People think in their minds that the finish is determining that if you have a 5x50, you have to smoke 4 inches of it to determine the finish. No. You take a cigar, doesn't matter the size, you smoke half an inch, and you're going to know if it has a long finish, a short finish, no finish, or a bad aftertaste. When do you know that a cigar has an excellent finish? When your lips are tingling and you don't want to let go of that cigar. And something I always say in the seminars, if you've never had this experience, remember the first time you kissed a girl and you did not want to let go. That is how important the finish is in the cigar. But at the same time, the 6 elements have to be there: the flavor, the strength, the aroma, the complexity, the balance, and the finish. That's the way, those are the things. But also, that said, how many times, and probably Carney has seen it because he's tried a lot of blends with Lito and Tony there, that you take 2 great fillers and 2 great binders and 2 great wrappers, and you put a blend together and you leave them there for 21 days. And when you light that up and go through it, and you go like, what the F happened here? This tastes like shit. And then you look and say, but the cigars, the tobaccos were amazing. They were 4 or 5 years old. They did not harmonize. And that's what people don't understand. It's like, how do you say, a crash collision where the both of them are fighting. Those 2 fillers or wrappers or binding are fighting for the flavor, for the strength, for the aroma, for the complexity, and they didn't. Because that's the other thing. People don't understand how long it takes to blend a cigar to make it successful. Of course, you could get lucky and maybe in, 8 or 10 different types you get it. But I can tell you this: cigars that have been extremely, extremely successful, it's taken year and a half, even up to 2 years to get to what the cigar should be.
And I know that over at Fuente, they have a saying, and I want to make sure I get this right: we shall never rush the hands of time.
Well, that's one of the things. And look, I don't want to brag about anything, but everybody knows that we've been in back order for I don't know how long. It's been a long time, and now we got a little bit more back orders because of the COVID has affected us. Look, Don Carlos never did it. Don Arturo never did it. Carlito will never do it. And when we're long gone, the kids are never going to do it. Till those cigars are not ready, they will not ship it. We've had sometimes SKUs that have been out for 5, 6, 7 months. People complaining. They will not ship it. And I can tell you something. Anybody who has visited our factory and seen our warehouses, they're going to see thousands and thousands and thousands of bales of tobacco. I'll give you an example. We've been growing tobacco in Nicaragua. And I'm going to say it because Carlito said it in other shows. We've already put in 5 crops in Nicaragua. We have not used 1 leaf of tobacco. I mean, how many companies can really do that? You know why? Because Don Carlos, Don Arturo, and Carlito, and me also, I firmly believe in good old age tobacco. Makes a huge difference.
Right. Yeah, I remember listening to someone else talking about, I know earlier this year there was a discussion that came about, with obviously the pandemic, and there's a lot of things going on in the world, and how that affected manufacturers like Arturo Fuente, La Flor Dominicana, and everyone else in the game. And there was a concern that there would be kind of a mimic of the cigar boom that happened in the 1990s, and that manufacturers were going to start rushing their product to get it out to fulfill orders because there was a fear that a shortage could come. And one of the names that was actually mentioned was Arturo Fuente, and the fact that during the cigar boom, they were one of the manufacturers who said, "Oh, we're not going to rush it. If we don't have it, we don't have it, because we're not going to roll them, stuff them in a box, and get them out the door because they're not ready." I think that's a really important attribute to have as a manufacturer. The fact that you put that care into the product. It doesn't even matter what it is. You don't have to be talking about cigars right now. You could be talking about anything, wine, even outside of something like that. You want to make companies who value the product they put out, especially companies like that have their name on the box, they have their name on the band, their name's over the door. The name is the reputation. The name is the product. That's what everyone's gonna know, and you're gonna put your name on something that you gotta give it 110%. So to have that mentality of, you know what, customers might be waiting, they might not be able to get it, but when they get it, it'll be worth the wait, so to speak.
Well, it's a whole hell of a lot easier to tell somebody that it's backed up than it is to explain why your product sucks.
Yeah.
That's a much easier spot to be in. And unfortunately, not everybody in any industry, especially ours, not everybody gets that, or not everybody has the same business model. And that's why companies like Fuente have been around for over 100 years. That's why companies like La Aurora have been around for over 100 years. That's why, Lido's been strong for 27 years now. Padron's been generations. So you look at those companies, and it's not a coincidence. I named those, Christian Aroa, same way the Aroa family. There's a handful of companies that operate that way, and then everybody else is trying to play games in the industry in terms of marketing, this, that, and whatever. And a lot of that information is like, oh, there's going to be these issues with, it's going to be like the cigar boom. When companies like Fuente were, concerned about the situation with COVID and availability, but at the same time, the quality was always going to stay there. And I think that's just a huge testament to our industry. And that's why, Fuentes, in my opinion, is the leader in our industry in regards to that. You've got Coke and Pepsi in general and Altadas. And then, the high end, the next step down is a family owned operation. And, I can tell you, I think General just announced yesterday or a couple days ago, they readjusted their forecast for their fourth quarter sales and revenue for this year, and it was up like 13%. And they had such a big year, and this and that, and it was great and everything. If you want to know who rushed their cigars up, it's the company that's reporting that 13% growth in that fourth quarter. That's exactly what it is. And other companies like us are focusing on the products and the quality of the cigars. So I said it's much easier to tell you that we're not rushing the hands of time, with the cigars not being put out, than it is to explain why the product sucked. And those companies are going to be doing a lot of explaining in the next couple months.
Now, Jose, there's a question I had for you, because it's something that gets talked about, in cigar shops and lounges. People come in and they buy cigars, they buy a box of cigars. Since we're talking about cigars and age and putting out cigars when they're ready to be put out, meaning, to the consumer and to the retailers and all that. There's oftentimes I hear some people, and maybe they just are misinformed, and maybe, I don't know. There's customers I've heard out there that will say they'll buy cigars just to bring them home and put them in their humidor in the box and let them sit for another 2 because they don't feel that they're good enough off the retail shelf. Is that in the mind of the consumer, or why I guess my real question is, why would a consumer buy a box of cigars and feel that way, in your opinion?
Well, let me put it to you this way. I could talk from some of the companies that John mentioned. Our cigars, they come out, they're ready to smoke. But it's very old age tobacco. But there's people that like just to put things aside. And talking about that, it just makes me sometimes laugh. And I'm not going to say the brands, of course. When I see somebody said, well, I bought this. There was this event and I bought this box of cigars, and I put it away for 3 years. When I opened it up, it was a dog rock. It was this, it was that. This is the problem that people don't understand. You have a cigar, a box of cigars with bad tobacco, and you put it away for a year, for 5 years, for 10 years, for 20 years. It's still going to be a bad cigar. People don't understand that. Now, there is a difference. You buy a cigar from, let's say, a good manufacturer that has good tobacco, and maybe they did rush it, and when it gets to the store, you're going to pick up some kind of strange notes to it. Of course, when you're going to put it away for a year, 2 years, it's going to get better, but it will not smoke as it was originally intended when the cigar, after it was made, was left in the aging room 60 days, 90 days, 120 days. We have product, and people have heard the story, not from me, a million times from Carlito and their sales team. There's a lot of product at Fuente that's made today and will not be released till a year after. And it's commercial stuff. And then on Opus and the rare stuff, that stuff is 2 and 3 years. But that to me is just something that blows my mind. When there's brands, okay, you put it away, you like it a lot. Of course, you want it's going to mellow out. It's going to probably burn a little bit better. It's going to taste maybe a little bit better, but it's not going to be a big difference. But putting away a cigar that's not that good, why put it away for a long time and then 3 years later open it up for your birthday and all of a sudden the cigar sucks? So that's my 2 cents on that.
I think you're 100% true. Like, people like setting things aside. Like you, Matthew. Like, I've been to the estate. You like having your cabinet with cigars in it. People are shocked when they come to my place. I maybe have 250 cigars, and I don't have boxes all over the place. And people are like, "Why don't you have a large collection of cigars?" And I said, "Well, everywhere I travel, and probably with you, Jose, my humidor. I have a great humidor, which I grabbed a nice cigar out of today, but." My humidor is everywhere I go, and I'm a proponent of the cigars that I smoke. I smoke LFD, I smoke Fuente, I smoke Padron, I smoke Christian Aroa. I'm partial to Dominican tobacco, so I tend to be LFD and Fuente, and I do like Davidoff too. But you look at that stuff, and I'm smoking cigars that are ready to go. Like, why am I going to sit on something and store it just to display it when every day I'm in a nice humidor? And I think that is the consumer side. Consumers like to have that display. They like to hold on to cigars. And it is nice to look at your collection, right?
Oh, I got stuff in my humidor in Miami that I got to figure out how I'm going to bring all that stuff back. I got stuff that's 20 years, 25 years old. I mean, look, to be honest, some of those cigars, they're going to smoke okay. Some of them are really great cigars. But, in time, they lose. And let's be honest, a lot of these people that buy all these cigars and all these auctions, I've smoked some of that pre-embargo stuff. And I mean, I was in Arizona one time. Some guy had bought some stuff in an auction. He bought a box of Bolivar, 1955, paid, I think, $37,000 for it. He wanted me to smoke it. And I said, yeah, where am I ever going to have the opportunity to smoke a $1,250 cigar? And to be honest, the first 2 inches was like smoking paper. Then you started to get, kind of that sweetness, that nutmeg, that good, when Cuba really used to have really good aged tobacco. But was it worth $12.50? And the guy was a millionaire. It's basically to show off. And I could say that the ones that I have that are very old probably is to show off a little bit. A little guy just... I can't compare it to multi-billionaires going to those auctions.
It's more for the bragging, right? Like, oh, I have something that's older than me.
Yeah.
It's funny you bring up Cuban tobacco too. I know a lot of people will say I've been smoking cigars long enough to really remember, I guess, when Cuban cigars were of a better quality. But one of the things I've heard a lot of people say about Cuban cigars is just how the quality has gone downhill. And one of the things is they don't really age a lot of their tobaccos as well as, a lot of companies like from the Dominican, Nicaragua, a lot of the stuff we have here in the United States that we're used to smoking. When you stack it up against some of the stuff that's coming out of Cuba now, the Cubans are just so far inferior to what's out there, because a lot of them, from what I understand, are rolled, boxed, and rushed right out to feed demand. And at that point, it's kind of like what we were talking about before. You're just getting cigars out to get them out, and of course the quality isn't there. So I know that that's been a topic of conversation as well, and it's just nice to hear someone like yourself talk about that, about how making sure they're ready to go. You age them properly, like many manufacturers do. And obviously here in the United States, everyone goes crazy over Cuban cigars, and it's like, at the end of the day, are the Cuban cigars really worth it? You could smoke something from the Dominican to Nicaragua that's going to be way better.
And they're going to draw.
Yeah, and they're gonna draw half the or the majority of the boxes are gonna be tight and plugged.
Yeah, let me tell you something. I try to avoid the Cuban thing, and I'll tell you why. I have a lot of friends there, and I feel sorry for that country because when you see that a roller makes $13 a month, when I do say that in the seminar, they go like, "What, a day?" I said, "No, $13 regular rollers a month." The ones that do the the additions and the regionals, it's about 15. So when you see that the government of Cuba is just taking out the blood out of these rollers, just bringing no life to them. Things in Cuba in the last year and a half is getting worse and worse and worse. Look, do I care about the Cuban people? Of course. Do I dislike 100% the government or communism? 100%, because they're good people like Dominicans and Puerto Ricans and the majority of people of Central and South America. It's all the same blood. But unfortunately, they've been over 50 years with a dictatorship that has not allowed them to really fulfill the dream. So one day we just pray to God that democracy will come back. And I hope one day that we maybe not have a factory there, but for sure be using some good Cuban tobacco in our blends and things like that. But never, never, never will we have anything to do with them. And anybody in the industry that respects themselves should not have support them in any way, because when you put 50 years of suffering to people, I mean, it brings almost tears to my eyes, to be honest. So we're gonna leave it at that, because at the end, one thing I will say, people say, I'm gonna tell you this: no country produces better cigars or tobacco than other. That I can guarantee. What the difference is, they're all different. The taste, the aroma, the complexity, everything is different. No country produces better tobacco than other. What is different is the way you process, ferment, age, cure, and blend. That's what makes the big difference. And that's what makes Fuente different than the majority of the companies in the world. That's my 2 cents on that.
Well, I think that's well said. That was really respectable too, and yeah, no, I think that was a great response. I probably couldn't have said that better myself. But no, I just, we talk about, tobaccos from different regions a lot on the show too. And these conversations are not only just really fun to have, but they're also very informative. It's a great way to learn, bouncing things off of each other, especially someone like yourself, who's really seen a lot and been experienced with a lot. But getting back to the blending a little bit. So I know that you've been involved with, several different companies. You've been with La Aurora. You've been with Hoya de Nicaragua. You've been blending cigars for a long time. In your own preference, aside from making a cigar for a company, for a new line or whatever, to make a cigar on your own, at your choice, what would be your favorite cigar to blend, so to speak? If you were to just make something for yourself, what would be your favorite tobacco to use, and what would your favorite blend be?
That's a good question. I've never been asked that. And probably, I hope I don't get a pink slip from Carlito on Monday. He's always on our show saying he's not going to send me the pink slip. But I'm going to tell you this, and maybe he'll let me do it. If I would have a choice, of course, it would be a grade A Cameroon wrapper. I would experiment with a binder from Chateau de la Fuente. And of course, I would put in probably 30% of some nice, maybe 15% Jalapa, 15% Estelí, and then the rest would be Piloto Cubano and Criollo 98. Probably somebody's going to tomorrow try to do that same blend, but it won't be the same because they'll never get the binder from Carlito. So that would be ideal. And then the size would be my favorite size, 5.5 by 46, a Corona Gorda. But at the same time, I would make also some Lanceros, 7 by 38. That would be something that who knows? Maybe Carlito will let me play with it when I go to the factory in January.
Yeah, it's all about experimentation, right? I mean, that's kind of like what what it goes into. It's just you're playing with different tobaccos and trying to get the right recipe. Like you said, like the cook in the kitchen. And I think we had that conversation, John, when Tony was on the show.
So I'm going to be in Tampa in January. The Tobacco Association of America is having their yearly board meeting at the Fuente facility. So Liana and the family had invited us down there. So I'll be there in January. I have written down notes on that blend, and I'm going to present them to Carlito in person the first week of January.
I got a text from him. We got to talk. I don't know what he wants to talk to me.
Jose, go ahead, John.
I have
go
a
ahead.
question. What you so you started with the Fuente family. Was that late 2019 or early?
No,
2020?
it was actually in March. Just for the record, and we said it on the show, and a lot of people know it. I've been friends with Carlito for over 30 years. We've had drinks together, we smoked together, but never really more friendship than anything else. But when I left Ernesto, when the contract was over, I had to go back to DR because my father had left me a lot of land and businesses with my son, and I had to. And basically, when things are going to happen, my lawyer and friend of 25 years had died. So in August, I had to address courts, lawyers, people who owed us money. And then August, September, October went through, November. And then in December, I called Carlito. Then Carlito called me back. Let's have dinner. We haven't gotten together. We had a conversation. He went off to Europe for vacation. I went to on vacation, spent 3 weeks with them. I came back. He invited me to the factory. Then we went to the farm a couple of times. And one thing led to another. But I got to be honest, I've said it on other shows. How am I going to put it? I've been successful, thank God, at all the companies I've worked to. I have a good reputation. I would say a lot of people like me. But coming to work with the Fuente is like when you have a degree and then you want to go to Harvard or you want to go to Yale or something. So what I told Carlito is for the first 5 years, I am going to do a master's from 70 to 75. And then from 75 to 80, I'm going to do a PhD. Now, after 80, I don't know, we gotta talk again because look, I'm loving it. Look, I knew his father. I've known Carlito for years. Cynthia and Liana have treated me in a way that it's 9 months and it seems like it's been 9 years. You know a lot of things about the company, but when you're inside, that's what you know about the true values of the company, what they mean, what's important for them. You look at people that have been working there 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, 35 years. Some rollers are the sons of people that started with them. So that tells you a lot about the country and the way they treat people. And I could tell you I would not change it for anything in the world. I'll be honest. I play the lottery and I check it once a year. If I were to hit the lottery, still, and people are going to say, out of your F mind, I would not leave the company, because this is what I love. I've been smoking for 55 years. I'm fourth generation. My great-grandfather grew tobacco. My grandfather, my father, Hochi, my cousin that John knows very well. We have it in our blood. My son, Gregory, is working with Hochi, and he loves. So we have, you cut me, and I don't bleed blood. I bleed tobacco and essential oil. So to me, I would not change this job for anything in the world. I'm very happy, and I'm working with a great family. And more than a great family, I'm working with a great friend.
So what's going on in regards to international business? We talk almost exclusively about what's going on here in the United States on the show and all the shows that I go on. And I think what's lost here is that there's this large cigar world out there that's not here in the United States that may be having different reactions to the COVID environment. What have you seen international in your you're
That's a
dealing through
great
recently?
question.
Well, to be honest, and I have to give credit to Carlito and Jeremiah about this. 3 or 4 years ago, Carlito said, we don't know what could happen in the States, and he started to do with all these big companies. We're in China, we're in Thailand, we're in Malaysia, we're in Hong Kong, we're all over the in the Middle East, and a lot of countries in Africa. Basically, every country in East Europe, West Europe. The ones we didn't have, we just opened up Denmark a couple of weeks ago. We got Alen Konatovic, the biggest in Croatia. There's two major other countries that we're going to finish. We've already have 4 different countries. We're almost in over 60 countries already and more to come. But it's a different business. It's totally different. We go in the States. I remember I've done events where I've sold 100 boxes of cigars. In Europe, you're not going to sell 100 boxes of cigars. You're not going to sell 10 boxes of cigars. But what you do is you go there and you do tasting, you meet with the people. And then in time, that's going to start to pay off. People see, I'll give you an example. In Europe, still the number one size that sell is Robusto. Even though some countries you're starting to see, some 54s, even some 60s, but you see a lot of Petit Coronas 5x38, a lot of regular Coronas 5 1/4 by 42. It's different. And plus, to be honest, in Europe, people are more loyal than in the States. In the States, people will change cigars like change underwear and things like that. They'll just, even though there's a lot of companies that have a great following and everything we make or they make it's sold. But let's face it, how many companies are out there that every time they come out with something new, that gets into the store, they sell it, but when the second time comes around, some of that product is still there. In the States, it's what's new, what's new, what's new, even though that, because of COVID, did calm down a bit. But in Europe, it's totally different. The same thing, I remember years ago, I took a year off and I was consulting and going to Thailand, Hong Kong, Beijing, Shanghai for a company. And just to give you an example, in the States, the majority of our pairing is done with coffee. In China, Hong Kong, and those places, the majority of the pairings are done with tea. And to be honest, I'm not a big fan of tea. But out of respect and being courteous, I had to have my cigar with tea.
Yeah,
that's what I paired with tonight. I paired with tea today. So,
the international, what I can tell you, the international market, a lot of people don't understand it, and that's why so many companies have tried from the States or from the Latin American countries, the South Central and Caribbean countries to get there, because you have different languages, you have different taxations. There's countries where you can't even put up POS material, smoking bans, high taxes. So it's different. And if you don't have the boots on the ground and look at it, every country for what it is, you're not going to be successful. It's not like one hat fits all it's like Western Europe is totally different from Eastern Europe. Eastern Europe has less regulations for smoking bans than Western Europe. The taxation is totally different everywhere.
Has there been spikes in demand international?
Oh, yeah.
As we're seeing here, because we're seeing massive spikes in demand here. Is the same thing internationally?
Yeah, there's a lot of shortage. The biggest shortage by far is the Cuban. That's a disaster. I mean, Spain, London, Germany, France, Switzerland. I mean, it's a disaster. I mean, and then a lot of brands out there that people they don't see them. I don't want to mention companies because it's not my thing, but there's companies that a lot of distributors and retailers told me, we haven't seen a cigar from XYZ company for 3 or 4 months. And you got to understand, at the beginning, we all had a panic attack that we thought that we were all going to lose part of the business. But then we forgot something that's, I learned this in the beer industry and the rum industry. In normal times, people smoke and drink, but when times are bad, people tend to drink more and smoke more. We forgot about that rule, and that's what's happened. People are indoor. They have more time to smoke. They're nervous. I mean, a guy who all of a sudden had $10 million worth and is down to 5, he's going to drink himself to death till the 5 million come back. So that's what's happening. It's just normal.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about that on the show this year too. Just how incredible the demand for just in cigars specifically, which is kind of what we focus on here. Just how incredible the demand is. And I remember at the very beginning of this pandemic, I remember there was like, well, what's going to happen? Like everyone's going to panic and no one's going to buy cigars. And in fact, I know a lot of just in my small little circle of the world, and the retailers that I know and the friends that I have who own shops up here were like, no, we're doing the best business we've done in our 35 years. It's like we're pumping boxes through the door. Everyone's just coming down to buy. And you said it best. Everyone's home. Especially with these with the office people now, they don't commute to work. They're home. They're working from home. They're working from home and they're on the computer. They're smoking a cigar all day. They're not doing that at the office. So, yeah, people are buying more, which I think also kind of feeds into that there was the fear of the cigar shortage, so to speak, that we mentioned earlier, because everyone's just the demand's gonna kind of unbalanced because there's just so much more buying right now. But yeah, no, John, those are some great questions. International business, and that's true. We don't really get into the international side of it too, because as you said, we really just kind of focus on what we have going here in the U.S. just kind of because that's just what we do. But yeah, it's interesting to speak to someone like you who can see outside of the U.S. and just see the kind of the broader image of the industry.
Well, I'll tell you something. When I was still working, beginning with Ernesto, and I saw Carlito on social media traveling, to Egypt, to Dubai, to Saudi Arabia, Vietnam, China. I mean, all over. I said, this guy has a plan because everything that Carlito does is, it's analyzed, it's worked out, looking towards. So he has made a big thing. And this thing also, the bubblehead, where's Carlito? That has gone worldwide. I mean, it's you think of it like, but it has caused so much attraction on Facebook that he's in Greece today. The next day he's in the States. The other day he's in China. So it's been something that's catch up and people like it. And it's just it's the marketing part of it that I think is just genius.
Yeah, he's definitely done a really good job at the way he markets the brand. I mean, yeah, the bobbleheads are great. I remember when I first saw those and them popping up and on Instagram too, people post their photos of the bobblehead and where it is, and you can just see everyone all over the world. It's not just here or there one area. It's all over the world. People have them and are sharing that, and as you said, it's genius.
Yeah, without a doubt.
I know John has his. I have mine too. I don't have it up here with me. I should have brought it out. I didn't think of that.
Well, you know what's funny? There's been bobbleheads made before, but there's never bobbleheads that made it worldwide. It was always just another bobblehead was just a part of like a gift of buying something, right? It was a gimmick. Days. Yeah, this was the first bobblehead that wasn't really a gimmick, in my opinion. It was a bobblehead that was out there, and honestly, you brought Carlito with you. You know what I mean? El Papo del Humo. Here he is.
There he is.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. He's in Miami now. I thought he was in Dominican. Who knows?
See? Now we have another guest on the show now. Now Carlito's here. He's watching and on the show.
Hey, has he written anything about my pink slip yet?
I think you're
not yet.
I think you're good. Yeah, I think you're in good shape. But he did say that HR will be reaching out to you, and I don't know. A lot of these businesses in the cigar don't have an HR department, so that might be trouble.
Yeah. He keeps texting me. We need to talk. I don't know. I'm joking. He hasn't texted me.
Well, no, maybe he's texting you because he's like, wait a minute, he's awake. This is an opportunity to get him before the show tomorrow.
No, the thing with him, he doesn't text. He'll call me later, and I'll just ignore the phone call, go to bed, have a good night's sleep.
I wanted to ask you another question about blending. When it comes,
are you gonna open up a factory or something?
Maybe this was just my grand scheme of stealing all of your information, so I could run away with it. John's secretly gonna disappear from La Flor Dominicana, and he's gonna take his knowledge, and we're gonna start our own shop. It's part of the master plan. I know, and now the cat's out of the bag. You ruined it.
You gave him that. You gave him that advice that maybe he could go buy a few acres in Cameroon and start his own Cameroon, and you'd actually call it Cameroon Tobacco. He's intrigued.
Well, now you get the wheels spinning in my mind, and I'm like, we could do this, and and John by my side, anything's possible. We could really get this done. No, I had something I wanted to add. Actually, I have a different question that someone had asked. I can't find it. I have it written down. Sorry. It was, as someone who's newer to cigars and really wants to learn about the process of creating cigars and the history of cigars, do you have any recommendations on reading material?
Oh, wow. I'm gonna be a little bit hard. No, I'm gonna be a little bit hard on this.
I'm trying to include the questions too. I want everyone to feel included.
No. Good. Look, if you look, what is the difference between our industry and the wine industry? The wine industry has thousands and thousands of DVD, has thousands and thousands of books, and to be honest, it's a handful of books that we have in our industry. What I recommend to people, and I think he got his second edition now, is the Tobacconist University Handbook by Jorge Armenteros. He's been a great educator. He's been a great friend of mine for many years. He's taken his time. I remember when I was in La Aurora, I took him to all our farms. He did a lot of videos there. I don't know what he's done lately, but there's not really a lot out there. What I tell a lot of people, you really want to learn, if you can afford a trip to Nicaragua or Honduras or Dominican, get on one of those tours, go to events where the principals are going to be there. Maybe they'll give you 5 or 10 minutes. Just connect with some of the sales guys out there that are very good. Anybody who's out there and Carney's visiting, Carney will give you 10 or 15 minutes and you'll get a lot of knowledge. But we have to be honest. And again, I'm not going to mention companies. There's a lot of companies out there that I've seen the salespeople there. And consumers ask them a question, they just brush them away. To me, that is totally unacceptable. Because I've been in shops that I put on Facebook or Twitter, I'm going to be there. 8 or 10 guys show up just on a sales call, and I'll sit around with them for an hour answering them questions. It wasn't an event. It wasn't anything up there. Am I going to say, no, I'm in a hurry, guys, I'm not going to talk to you? No, it's totally disrespectful. So there's a lot of ways, but at the end of the day, you really learn about a lot of things. It's smoking cigars. People ask me, how can I develop my palate? And I tell them, look, if you smoke one country, it doesn't matter if it's Cuba, Nicaragua, Dominican, or Honduras, you're not going to learn. You got to smoke different countries, different sizes, different tobaccos to develop your palate. Smoking one brand, it doesn't matter how good it is, you're not going to develop your palate. You're missing the boat. It's like a lot of people say, these cigars taste like this cigar tastes like that. One thing that I can tell you about Fuente doesn't taste Dominican, doesn't taste Cuban, doesn't taste Nicaragua. Fuente cigars taste like Fuente. You could take all the SKUs that we have, and there's no two cigars. A Don Carlos doesn't taste like a Hemingway. A Magnum doesn't taste like an Opus. An Opus doesn't taste like any other cigars that we have. You know what? The great part of that is the blending. At the end of the day, you got, like I said, you got to have all the great tobaccos in the world or all the great ingredients to make a meal. The chef, in this case, the master blender, is the person that really tweaks and tweaks and tweaks till he gets that cigar to the point where you're enjoying it and you just want to nub it down.
Absolutely. I think that's well said. And it's funny you mentioned nubbing down. In your opinion, I guess, or in your personal style, when you smoke a cigar, at what point do you feel? And at what point do you feel that the cigar is done? Is it all the way down? Is it to the band? I know this is a question that people always debate over all the time.
Listen, I'll put it to you this way. I've lit up cigars, and after half an inch, they go into the garbage can. I have smoked. I would say that 85 to 90% of cigars, I would go 3/4. Now, Have I nubbed down some cigars? Yes. And I'll give you an example. I hadn't smoked the Añejo 888 in a long time, and Jeremiah sent me some. I let them rest for a couple of days, and then everybody knows that I get up very early. I feed the ducks at 6 o'clock. Then I make my coffee, and after coffee and toast, I sit in the balcony. Not now because it's cold. And I lit up the 888. Even though I got to say that the Añejo 46, which is the Corona Gorda, is amazing. I nubbed it down like that. It was almost burning like that because it was so good. But at the same time, does it happen a lot? Not really. There are cigars that are good, in my opinion, very good, not so good, excellent, and memorable. That cigar falls into my category of memorable. That cigar I will never forget as long as I live.
So when you blend a cigar, do you blend a cigar to be smoked to a certain length or for a certain amount of time?
No.
It's just
you make a cigar if it's. You start. Look, some people start blending with a 5.5 by 46. The majority of people do Robustos, like in Ernesto Casey blends cigars already with the big green gauge. Everybody has their own way of blending. But no, you blend the cigar. If it's a Robusto, it'll be smoked in an hour. If it's a 6 by 60, 2+ hours. If it's an A, 9.25 by 47, it's a 3 hours. 3 hour plus smoke. So you can't make a cigar to be smoked, just for a certain time. It has to be blended in a way that the size will, you'll smoke it, enjoying it for X amount of time.
Yeah. Now, one question that I had earlier when we were kind of a little bit more into this conversation. So after a cigar has been blended and a line has been released and you have established a specific blend and it's been out there for a while, like you talked earlier in the show about how, crops can change and stuff like that happens. At any point, is there ever a time when a company will say, you know what, let's take, cigar A, whatever. I won't mention any names, just for the sake of the demonstration. And you know what, let's revisit that and maybe change the blend. And whether you re-release it differently or you leave it under the same name, but maybe it's not the same exact recipe or the blended, or it's not being made the same exact way that maybe it was the first 5, 10, 15 years. And maybe you tweak it a little bit for whatever reason to make changes.
Well, let me put it to you this way. At least in the companies that I've worked, companies that have been around for a while, I would say no, especially in the case of Fuente, because the benefit that Fuente has is that we have so much tobacco and we buy so much tobacco that we don't have to fool around with that. Now, that said, and this happens to be honest, in smaller companies, they ran out of certain tobacco and they have to buy this tobacco that's, instead of they were using 3-year-old and now they're using 1-year-old. They're going to have to play and tweak around with the blend and try to get it. What's going to change is the proportions of the visos, the ligeros, and the seco, and maybe a binder. And what you try to do is try to get as close as possible. But if you are using 3- and 4-year-old tobacco, now you're going to use a 1-year tobacco. You got to be like Houdini to come up and try to make it the same. I don't think it could happen personally. You could get maybe close to it, but to exact, it doesn't happen because it's the age of the tobacco that's going to make the difference on that blend.
Yeah. Can give you I'll give you a little break, I guess, from the direct cigar questions, so to speak. But I've read a lot about you. I've followed you for a long time, and I know you've been a wealth of knowledge so far just on the show. But cigars aside, I know cigars are huge for you, and I know you said you bleed the tobacco and the essential oils. But interesting question I had for you. If it wasn't tobacco, if you weren't in the tobacco industry, you weren't blending cigars, you weren't selling tobacco, you had nothing to do with it, and you could do something different, what would you have done?
Well, let me put it to you this way. Outside of my kids and my wife, of course, that's everything for me. My 3 biggest passions: cigars, movies, and music. I know a lot about cigars, but I'm also a movie buff. I mean, I've sat down with people, and I remembered some of the TAAs. We would start at 8 o'clock. Sal Fontana, me, uh, 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 Christian, and a whole bunch of people. We would be 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning just talking about movies. I mean, I am so passionate about movies, and I mean, I'm talking about movies. I mean, there's a lot of great actors nowadays, but you're never going to see somebody like Sir Laurence Olivier. And a lot of people hear that name and say, "Who the hell is Sir Laurence Olivier?" I mean, or Spencer Tracy, or Clark Gable. I mean, or Marlon Brando. I mean, you got great actors now, of course, Pacino and De Niro. But I could talk movie. I could do a show only about movies for 5 hours, and we would go nuts with that. But probably, I'm not going to say an actor, of course, but maybe I would like to write scripts, or not even a director, or just be involved with the movie industry. I'm a big fan of the movie industry, and then music, of course. I like all type of music. But other than that, that's about it.
All right, so here's a shot out of a cannon. So what's your favorite film of all time?
It's a toss-up between Gone with the Wind and Citizen Kane. And then you got to put in there, of course, The Godfather, Lawrence of Arabia, Casablanca, Godfather 2. I mean, movies like that. And then in modern times, I'm a big fan of The Usual Suspects. I love that movie. Kaiser Sose, I mean.
That was an awesome movie.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that movie, Kevin Spacey really knocked it out of the park with that. I mean, I'll put you this way. Greatest Western of all times, High Noon. And after that, Unforgiven. And after that, The Magnificent Seven, the original one, with Yul Brynner, Steve McQueen, Charles Bronson. But a lot of people don't know that movie the original is from the Seven Samurai from Japan. So we can talk movies all night, but let's talk cigars and tobacco.
Okay. I figured I'd toss it up a little bit. I'll give you a little break. I didn't want to pepper you too much.
I got one for cigars here. What's next for Fuente? What's going on in 2021? I know the Pinks just came out, which was a project that Carlito did in coordination with his daughter, and that was a huge success. Those just started hitting. Like, what's going on in 2021? Is there something that was going to go on this year that got pushed back?
Look, first of all, you got to understand that Carlito is like MI6, Mossad, and the CIA. They don't.
Carlito's right here, so if you know it, you can say it. He's bobbing his head right now.
Listen, I'm finding out stuff when I see it on social media. He doesn't put it up, so it's something that I have to deal with. It. I respect it. That's his way of doing things. The only thing that we know, and I can't get into details because everybody knows it, and I think it's going to be. I don't want to brag about it. I think it's going to be the hottest thing for 2021 is the project that him and Jorge Padron are doing to honor their fathers. Other than that, I don't know the tobaccos. I don't know the size. I don't know anything. And even if I knew it, and I would say that would really get me the pink slip.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest project probably in the history of the cigar industry right there. And I'm always excited about projects coming out of both those factories anyway. But one that's coming together like that, I can't think of anything that's been bigger in the cigar world, right?
I think so. I mean, we had Jorge on the show for an hour and 40 minutes, and him and Carlito interacted a lot. I mean, Don Carlos and Don Jose Orlando Padron, very old friends, very hard times, the both of them. And they're just honoring their fathers. Because, talking about some of the, how would you say, people see all the, how big Fuente is and how well Padron does, but nobody remembers, or some people remember, the old people, but a lot of people don't remember that in 1978, 79, they lost everything in Nicaragua. They got burned out. I mean, they got thrown out of the country. Then they go to Honduras and everything, burns down there. Then they go to Dominican Republic with very little money, living in a small, modest house, starting with 3 or 4 rollers. It's been the perseverance of Don Carlos and Carlito that has brought that company to where it is. And the same thing, the Padrones, they got a bomb put in their place in Miami. I think they were almost burned down one time. The old man had to go from Nicaragua during the revolution to Honduras. And, everybody goes through hard times. But the thing is, people only see, the glory days. You got to look at also of the hardship that a lot of these people have gone through. And that's why I have the utmost respect. I'm going to say something here. I was on Cigar Dojo about a month or so ago. I like Eric and Jordan a lot. So Eric asked me, if you were to do a Mount Rushmore, who were the 4 people that you would put on that? And I said, shit, man, that's going to put me in trouble with some people. But then I said, the hell with it. This is very easy. Then I said, Mount Rushmore will be with these 4 gentlemen. First of all, the last of the living legends, Benji Menendez, Don Jose Orlando Padron, Don Carlos Fuente, and maybe the less known of the 4, Fernando Leon, Guillermo Leon's father, which is considered by many was the most knowledgeable tobacco man in Dominican Republic. And Eric said, we've asked this question many times, but I think you really nailed it. But what is the thing about these 4 people? Those people were all about tobacco, 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 and more than anything else, family, family, family. Look, if you see at our show, we bring in family companies. We bring in people, retailers that are mom and pop shops. Because why? We believe in the brick and mortars. And anybody who didn't see Lito's show, they should see it. Because Lito spoke out that day about what him, the Padron, the Newmans, and some people I might forget their names, have done to support the CRA and to support legislation against FDA and smoking bans and taxes. Unfortunately, it's only 8 or 10 people who have done the job. And there's people here that have become multimillionaires and have not donated anything. And we know that the big companies, and I don't have to mention them because everybody knows that, we all know what their game is. They want it all for themselves. And just look at this. You have these companies that today, a guy's the CEO of it, and in 4 years, he's up with a perfume company or with a beer company. They're not tobacco people. They're just smart people that get jobs. That's all.
Yeah, it's true. And we've talked. We've had that discussion as well on the show with the bigger companies versus the companies like Fuente, the family companies, even LFD. The Gomez family. Just the people who. And it's the narrative I think that means the most to me. Getting into the cigar industry, cigars as a passion, cigars, whatever you want to call it. The one thing I have always said, and it's one of the reasons why I do love the brands I love, Fuente, LFD, Perdomo, Padron. It's because those companies, not only do they make good products, not only do they make good cigars, not only do they have a great lineup and all those little things that mean a lot, but I'm really big on family, and I really like the family aspect that a lot of these companies have. I talked to John about the Gomez family with Lito and Nez and Tony and the Fuente family and everyone over there. To watch these companies, they put the family first. They put the family name on it. Like I was mentioning before, with the whole rushing products out, not wanting to. You're putting your name on something. It has to be the best. You want to take your time, make sure it's the best for the consumer. You're putting your name on it. It's not just some other name or whatever. And I've always appreciated, not just loved and supported and bought, because I do, but I've had a respect and an appreciation for those companies that are just so family based. And I think you were mentioning before about Carlito and the mentality behind the company is the family, the company. I think that's really important. At the end of the day, especially in business too. You know, families go into business, you know, with each other, and sometimes it doesn't work out. But when you see those families really get together, and it's more than the product, it's more than the business, it's the family. And when the family passion is behind something, it's truly remarkable. And especially the other thing I like about the industry is when you look at these companies like Fuente, and they're generational, and it's gone. And even like yourself, you said you're a fourth generation.
Yeah.
I believe you said, right? Yeah. It's the generational. It gets passed down. It's that family legacy that continues and it continues, and it keeps going down. Now your son is into the business with Hochi, as you mentioned before. I think that's amazing. You know, I have a huge respect for that, and you know, and I love hearing those stories when I get to talk to people like yourself and some other people we've had on the show and have those conversations.
But you know, also, Matthew, if anybody who knows Carlito, and he said it a million times, it's all about the people. It's all about the love. Because look, you know, one thing that Don Carlos said many, many years ago, I don't want to be the biggest. I want to see the best. And they have proved that during years. It's like some people say, well, I don't like Fuente. You say, I respect that. But let's just look at it this way. They've been doing it like for 108 years. In 2022, it's going to be 110. So don't you think they're doing something right? Because see, that is something that I respect. When somebody tells me, well, I don't like that cigar. Okay, but tell me what you don't like about it. Is it one-dimensional? Does it lack depth? Is it not complex enough? Is the aroma offensive? Tell me something about it. Just don't tell me I don't like it. Because you telling me I don't like it, I'm not going to learn anything. It's like when I was doing blends and I would go on the road and ask people, like, I want you to try that. What is that? I said, don't worry. What is a cigar? Give me your opinion. 20 minutes into it. What do you think? Well, it's okay. Okay. I respect that. Tell me why it's okay. They couldn't give you an answer. So that's something I stopped doing years and years ago. Of course, people that I trust their palate, I love to give them a cigar. And I want them to define the cigar. The cigar is medium to full. It's rich. It's bold. It's complex. It's balanced. Has a great finish. Has notes of this. And I know I can't expect that from everybody. And I have, I don't know, 10, 20 people that I trust their palates in the States. And I know Carney has his people that he gives them a cigar and says that. But, you know, how am I going to put it? People, it's like people who judge a cigar. Look, bands and boxes are beautiful. But at the end of the day, let's face it, it's all about the cigar. The cigar has to perform, in my opinion. I mean, I hear people say, well, you know, my cigar, after the first 2 inches, it's when you really get into it. And I go like, okay, let's put it this way. Let's do just mathematics. So I just paid $10 for a Robusto. So it costs $2 every inch. So you're telling me that I just wasted $4 on the first 2 inches? They go like, what are you saying? To me, a cigar, as soon as you light it up, you know, a couple of puffs into it, it has to start to perform. You know, the spice, the earthiness, the notes that you're picking up. Then, of course, as the cigar you keep on smoking, it's going to develop and develop more and more. But don't tell me that I got to wait 2.5 inches for your cigar to really start to perform. And you know what the problem with that is? It probably is a good blend, but the roller, when he put the leaves in the bunch, did not position them correctly.
I've had this. I talked about this on one of my recent episodes on the show. I learned very early on when I first started smoking cigars and trying to just, you know, go through that phase of smoking different things and learning about different flavors and tastes in cigars and whatever. And I made this mistake of letting someone tell me, you don't want to smoke that. You know, it's the wrapper, you're not going to like that. And I was, oh, okay, yeah. And I believed it and I went with it. And, you know, after some time, I said to myself, but what if I smoke it and I like it? And I said, no, I'm not gonna take that. I still gotta smoke, even if it is a bad cigar. Let's just say, how can I go and look someone in the eye and say, no, that cigar is horrible, and I've never smoked it? And I said, I gotta smoke it. And I smoked that cigar, and I loved it. I won't say what it was because it doesn't matter. But I learned that lesson very early on, and like you said, with the bands and the boxes, and they're beautiful, and you can't buy a cigar because the box is beautiful and the band it's big and it has a lot of gold on it, or it's very intricate or has certain colors and it's bright. You got to buy a cigar that you're gonna enjoy, because at the end of the day, you don't smoke the box, you don't smoke the band, you smoke the cigar. So that is very important. I'm glad you brought that up, and that is a lesson that I did learn myself, and I'm sure others, and I'm sure you and John could say the same. But
No, but talking about that, and I try to always say it in all the shows I'm on. You know what's something that I don't like to use the word hate, but that I really dislike is when I go into a shop and somebody's bad mouthing a brand, and especially when it's a rep that used to work for that brand. And sometimes I pull them aside and I said, look, you were in that shop for 20 minutes, bad mouthing the company you used to work with, saying they do this to tobacco, they do this, they do that, their tobacco is young. You just left 12 or 14 people thinking, well, who tells me now that the company that you're working with doesn't do the same thing? I always say, if you don't have anything good to say about a cigar, don't say anything. I've always told, especially the young guys that start in the industry, for you to sell your cigars, you don't have to badmouth another cigar. Just bring out the attributes and what's good about your cigar. Commit to doing your events. Visit your stores frequently, whatever your company wants to. Be nice to the owner. Be nice to everybody's in the store. I mean, you won't have a problem. But unfortunately, Carney sees it just as much as I do. How many people, we're not going to mention companies, go out there bad-mouthing store after store, certain brands? It comes back to bite you, and it bites you in the ass.
Yeah. I see John's set up for his soap review segment, which we haven't seen on the Smokin Tabacco show in a little while now. Now, Jose, this is a truly unique part of our show. This is something that John has started during the quarantine, and I'm sure I see you over there. You look confused as you don't.
I hope he doesn't blow up the kitchen.
No, the chef's in the kitchen. So how this started was early on when COVID wasn't really a thing. I was doing soap reviews on social media when I was in airports. One of the biggest things I'm sure you see is people not washing their hands in airports or as they travel. So I started going around to different places. People were giving me tips and hints on different spots to go. So once we started Smokin Tabacco here during COVID, we picked up the soap review again. And the special thing we have today, we have one of the most anticipated soaps of all time for the review segment here. We have finally procured Dr. Squatch. We finally have Dr. Squatch soap. Here we go. This is the Dr. Squatch Pine Tar. This is the 5-ounce soap bar. We're raising the bar. Here we go. For years, men have been forced to settle for boring, low-quality soaps and harsh chemical ingredients, all things that I hate. Now you can turn your shower up a notch with Dr. Squatch Natural Men's Soap, handcrafted with the natural finest ingredients that your skin craves. We got natural ingredients, lathers without harsh chemicals, great thing, handcrafted in small batches. A huge fan of small batch boutique soaps. And this is a cold process. No idea what that means, but this is Pine Tar, Dr. Squatch Pine Tar. So nice packaging. This came in a gift set with some beard oil as well. Dr. Squatch. One thing about this too, Jose, is this is not a sponsored segment. Dr. Squatch has not paid us to do this. We've been trying to get sponsors for soap, but apparently they're not interested. So hey, is what it is. So we'll continue to sponsor ourselves. So this has got a very strong pine, woodsy scent to it. Even inside of the packaging. When we open up, very robust. This stuff's good. Take a look at it. You can tell it's natural. You can see the little segments in cigars. We call this toothy, I think. We call it toothy. Yep. Another thing with this is with craft soaps like this, craft soaps aren't really oily. We talked earlier about essential oils coming out of Jose's skin or blood there. These are obviously essential oils, very rich in the pine. Very rich in the pine. Black, so it's obviously got some charcoal in it. I'm not going to lie. I've actually used this already, so I kind of already know where this is going to go. But a really easy, natural lather. You get a little bit of the black color into it. Shows you there with the charcoal. Great coverage on the hands. Not oily. You can tell it doesn't have those unnatural chemicals in it, so it's not creating a ton of astringency on your hands. The scent's like a 9 out of 10. Very holiday-oriented, but not over the top. But so we got good lather. You can see some of the black. This is very reminiscent of some of the better soaps that I've used before. You can see here we get a nice white lather going, and it's more instead of being large bubbles, they're small bubbles, very intense in the cleaning power you get from that. Small bubbles are key. Non-craft soaps have a lot of artificial things in there that create large bubbles. Just general cleanliness. I'm using medium to warm water here to rinse. The smell is still great. One thing about this pine is it's not overwhelming pine. So if you've ever used pine oils or whatnot, like pine sol, it's not overwhelming like that. It's the natural scent of it. For me, this kind of reminds me of home when you're outside in the springtime, even in the fall. It comes off the hands real easy. Did not take a lot of rinsing there. Not a lot of residual grease. As I said, that's reminiscent of these craft soaps. This is special. This is a special soap. I've really loved the Outlaw Soap Company. They've done great with us. I think the highest rating we've done there was a 7.8. Dr. Squatch, in my opinion, lives up to its reputation. I don't know if women are going to come running. This was purchased by a lady friend of mine, and she's really a big fan of it. So it does perform some of what they say on those Facebook ads you've seen, but this does live up to the hype. I'm going to give this an 8.4. This is an 8.4 soap. Wow. This is our highest rated soap of all time. I would put this up here in regards to the bar soaps. It's probably the best bar soap I've ever used. I would have to go side by side with the DFW baggage claim E15 bathroom third sink from the right soap. There, that lather was a really nice one. But in terms of bar soaps, this is fantastic. So we're going 8.4. Dr. Squatch came to play and lived up to the expectation. I'm looking forward to trying some of their other scents.
I'm 71 years old, and every day you learn something new. Now I've heard it all.
See, there you go. I knew I had to try and get something different for you. Different experience. It's truly unique. A soap review right on the show.
I know. I'm gonna have to try that Dr. Squatch when I'm in the States. I don't know how do you get that? You have to. It's online. They sell it.
It's an online soap membership essentially, and it's something we've been looking at for quite a while, and we've been talking about it since March. And they've obviously advertised very heavily on social media. Anybody watching this now, it's probably going to pop up in their Facebook feed. But yeah, great company, man. I used it the other day. I showered with it. It was ridiculous. It was super clean, like on my hands. Like it's not like I feel like I have better grip. It's not astringent by any means. It's not greasy. In my opinion, I don't feel like it's clogged. Like it's pore clogging. Yeah, Dr. Squatch. We were considering if we were going to do the soap review today. And Matthew's like, "Hey, do you want to do the soap review? We got a little different theme." I'm like, "No." I'm like, "Jose's on the show." I go, "We're going to give him a soap review."
But of course.
Yeah. I mean, I was just looking at the time too, and we're getting a little bit towards the end of the show here. So I did want to throw it to Jose really quick because you are our guest. I wanted to first ask you kind of two things. A, do you have any questions for myself or John that you wanted to ask? I know we've been asking you the questions all night. And then two,
the ones that I have for John, people cannot hear them because it could cause problems. Let's leave it at that. He owes me a steak. I don't know how I'm John.
You will have to pull it off. We'll have to pull it off somehow. So when we connect up, there will be steak involved.
Okay. No, Matthew. No, I don't have any question for you guys. I gotta tell you, I'm very delightful. You're very professional. Now, having Carney there, well, I don't really know about that.
I know, right?
He's my brother. John Carney is one of the guys, I don't know if it means a lot, that I respect the most. One of the hardest workers out there. I've seen him in action many times. Very respectful. always motivating his team. Everywhere he walks into, everybody's happy with him, except sometimes when there's a lot of back orders, they curse him out. But, it's something he has to deal with. But Carney's one of the good guys. And with you, Matthew, I've had a great time, a great show, great questions. You did your homework, and you will keep up the good work. And I know you'll have a bright future. You're very passionate, and you look into things, into details, that's what makes the difference with you and some other guys. You have any other questions?
I don't think that was it. I was going to ask you about your ducks at some point because I know I've seen you on there on social media feeding the ducks.
Let me tell you something. I made a mistake one day of showing Carlito a video of me feeding the ducks, the swans, and the geese. So sometimes it's 6 o'clock my time, 1 o'clock his time, and I get a text, and I go like, "What now?" You know what Carlito's first question is? Did you feed the ducks? And then we were doing the show with Coop the other night, and during the show, the question was, "Jose, is it time to feed the ducks and the swans and the geese?" So now, not only do I have my kid and Emma worrying about the ducks, now I got my boss also worrying if I'm feeding the ducks. So, I mean, it's like Ronnie Dangerfield used to say, "I don't get no respect."
The man was just trying to have a relaxing time feeding some ducks, and now it's become a chore.
Oh my God, it's crazy.
So that's what I love about it because I remember watching it. You were out there, you were feeding them and having your cigar and your coffee, and it's so relaxing and peaceful. I gotta be honest, I was jealous. I loved it, and now it's turned into like everyone's worried about it.
Yeah, but let me tell you something, and Carlito realized this the other day. In our house, we have 3 balconies. So there's 2 balconies that go to a pond. It's a huge pond. So sometimes as soon as I get on the balcony on the left side and all of them are on this side, they see me right away. They come over. But if I'm on the right side of the balcony, as soon as I turn on the light at 5:30 or 6, or I crack that window, they're all there like this. Ducks don't look at you like this. They look at you like that. So you think about animals, and I mean, how can they see a light or a crack of a door and know that I'm there already to feed them? It's amazing, human nature.
Yeah, I've like I said, I've been following you online for a little while now, and I remember seeing that, and I was watching the show, not live, but I watched it after when you and Carlito were on with Coop, and I did see that, and he asked you about feeding the ducks. And I was like, yeah, I got to ask you about those ducks because I got to be honest, that whole experience, I was jealous. It just seems so peaceful and relaxing, and sometimes it's important to have that in your life. I do have another question, really quick. Someone asked, sorry, I just want to make sure I read this right. Who has a better palate, you or Hochi?
Oh, I know who said that one. That one is look, I don't want to brag about this. This was on the show. It's funny. The rollers and the supervisors at Hochi's factory, when we were doing blends and things like that, they would always say, Hochi likes this, Hochi likes that. And then many of them said, no, what your cousin says, he has a better palate than you. And no, Hochi has a great palate. I think we look at cigars in a different way. People say I have a good palate. I'm not going to say I have a great palate, but I think I have a fair good palate. People in the shops love to challenge me, give me an unbanned cigar and say, who makes this? I would say maybe 8 out of 10, I get it right. But Hochi, to be honest, I don't want to brag about it. I think I have a better palate than him. I know he's not here in the show.
That's funny. And so really quick before we wrap up, I don't want to forget about Jon either too. Jon, is there anything you wanted to say really quick while we were on the air with Jose? Any other questions you had for him either?
It's been excellent. It's great to connect back up again. I've stayed close to what you've been doing over the last several months anyway, but it's nice to be face to face because most of the people that we've had on the show, which has been great, I haven't seen these people in almost a year now. you know, and usually we see each other all the time. So, no, Jose, thank you for coming on. Thank you for the kind words. Thank you for the support of the industry over your life. And you continue to do great things with the Fuente family. And hopefully this ends soon so you can start getting out there a little bit more and bring the Ducks on the road with you. But no, it's been a pleasure. We've been glad to have you on here. It was a special show. This has been this 2 weeks period here is kind of our Christmas celebration. So we've got some fun stuff ahead. This is our third show. We've got Hacking Gourmet coming up on Monday, 12/21. I was going to try to show some artwork, but for some reason my Skype's not working correctly. But we've got the Hacking Gourmet Christmas Vacation on Monday, and then we're actually doing Smokin Tabacco has invited the Hacking Gourmet team to come on, and we're going to do a special Smokin Tabacco Hacking Gourmet Christmas special on the 23rd. So we got really fun 2 weeks. We'll be back to a little bit normal 1 show a week program here after the holidays. But it's been a fun week, and thank you for spending your Saturday night. Is it Saturday night over there, or is it Sunday morning right now?
Yeah, it's going to be Saturday. It's 11:46 now.
All right. Well, thank you for spending your Saturday night with us. It was a blast, my friend, and appreciate everything about you.
It's always great to see you. And remember, you still owe me that steak. You're not getting off that easy.
Don't even worry about it. It's done. I got some surprises for you.
Yeah, John, I was actually just going to say you get the mood lighting going, and Cynthia said, I really like the blue lighting in the background. How did you get that light? It's like mood lighting over there.
Well, it's part of my production setup. But I had a big event on Wednesday that we did with the Movember Foundation with Lito Daniel Jr. and I. And all my lights are actually either in the office or in the cigar bar we did the event at. All I had left was the blue. It's supposed to be blue, red, and white, and it makes your skin look good. And tonight we only have blue, so I feel like I'm in like the Haunted Mansion right now.
Well, guys, we are going to wrap up the show. Jose, thank you for coming on. And again, thank you for spending your time with us.
Matthew, before the show ends, there's one last thing I want to say.
Absolutely.
To all the BOTLs, the SOTLs, and passionate cigar smokers from all over, because there's a lot of people, believe it or not, a lot of friends of mine from Europe that are on the call tonight. Support your brick and mortar. Join the CRA. When a store owner tells you there's a new tax coming in and he says to sign the petition, sign it. Become an active member of the CRA. They are the last line of defense. We just won a battle in court, but we have not won the war. We need the support of the consumers and the support of the store owners. We cannot do it alone. 7 or 8 people, and everybody knows who they are, cannot do the job alone. We need money for the CRA. We have to support also the PCA, because if not, we're all going to suffer. I would like to also thank everybody for tuning in tonight. It was not the best of conditions. I'm a little bit under the weather. I don't know how bad I look on the screen, but
you look good.
Okay. Well, for a 71-year-old man, it's okay. But anyway, Matthew and Jonathan, it was a pleasure. Thank you for having me on the show. And like I told Matthew, anytime you have a question, a misconception, or a doubt, do not hesitate to contact me, because we're here to help.
Absolutely. Well, Jose, thank you for joining us. Stay with us for 1 second, just until we're off the air. But we're going to end the show there. Guys, thank you for watching. Thank you to Jose for coming on. Thank you to John, as always, for being here with us. And we'll see you guys on Wednesday. Take care.
Thank you.